Hi, in this video we'll discuss the risk profile. So we have been dealing with risks and returns for different individuals, but how would different risk tolerance or risk attitudes affect different individuals' decision making? So let's take a look at this simple example. So suppose we are provided with different options. So the first option, you can receive £100 for sure. So there's no variance in it. There's no risk associated with this option. You just get £100 for sure. Okay. So if we have to calculate any variance or risk for this option, that will be exactly 0 because that's a constant here. Okay. So suppose I have a second option here in which we'll be rewarded for £150 with 50% of the probability, and the other 50% of the probability we will just receive £50. So on average, that is still £100. Right? So the expected value for this option is still £100. But what is the risk associated with this option here? We can calculate the risk or the standard deviation for this option here. So remember our formula for calculating the standard deviation here. So that will be 0.5, which is the probability for the first outcome, multiplied by 150, which is the first result, minus the average result, to the power of 2, and then 0.5, 150, 50 here. Okay, not 150, but 50 over here, minus 100 to the power of 2. And then take the square root of the variance here. And then you have the standard deviation. So if you do the calculations here, which could be very simple in this case, you should have 50 over here. So if you have to bring the unit with that, that'll be £50. So the risk here is exactly £50 here. As you can see, we always have this £50 of deviation from the average here. Okay, so would you prefer option 2 over option 1? So that's dependent on your risk profile here. So let's take a look at an even more extreme example here. So if I have option 3 over here, so I have 50% of probability, which I'll get £200, and also 50% of probability, I'll get nothing. Okay, so on average, still, it's £100. But the risk involved with this option would be 0.5, again 200 minus 100 to the power of 2, plus 0.5 times 0 minus 100 to the power of 2, and take the square root of that, and you'll find the risk of this option is going to be 100. And it's exactly the deviation from each of the result from the average. Okay, so I've been provided with 3 different options. Okay, so on average, they seem to be exactly the same, but we don't always get all of the outcomes, right? We're doing a bit of gambling here because either we get, if we choose option 2, we get 150 or 50. If we choose option 3, then we get 200 or 0, right? So on average, they're the same, but in reality, you get different results. So how would this impact our decision making? So if I'm very risk averse, or I dislike risk, I don't like uncertainty here, I might prefer the safe option here, which is £100 for sure, so that I'm not gambling with my outcomes, because I would get £100 with 100% certainty here. Okay, so if I am a little bit, tolerant towards the risks, I might choose this one. Okay, because it has a bigger upside here. Okay, so I might end up with a better outcome than the first option, which is the 150, but also I might end up worse than the £100. Okay, if I am really seeking the thrill of the gamble here, or I'm really betting for the upper side, I might choose option 3 here. Okay, so if I'm choosing option 3 here, I'm gambling, I'm hoping to get the £200 because it provides me with the best outcome, although on average it's still the same because I have 50% of the probability that I'm getting 0 out of it. Okay, so depending on different individuals' preferences or sometimes utility for these options, considering or accounting for the risks involved, they might choose differently. So if someone prefers this over any other options with gambling or with uncertainty, we can say they're risk averse, right? They're a bit of risk averse. Okay, so if someone prefers option 3 out of the 3 options, we sometimes call them the risk-seeking individuals. Okay, so they'll prefer a gamble rather than a safe option here. Okay, but if someone finds all 3 options the same, or they're indifferent towards the 3 options here because they provide on average the same expected value here, so we call these individuals or these risk profiles risk neutral, as if there are no risks involved. Okay, so there are 3 different types of risk profile here: risk averse, risk seeking, and risk neutral. Okay, so depending on the given information, or depending on the different investors types, you could get different risk profiles over here, and consequently the individuals will make different decisions based on the options given here. And we'll illustrate this in the next video with the help of some graphs.